Someone once told me that getting a dog and a cat to live together peacefully was difficult enough, let alone adding a wild baby squirrel to the mix. Honestly, I believed that too. But one day, I witnessed something my cat did that I still can hardly believe. Instead of chasing away the tiny squirrel we had just brought home, he lowered his head and gently licked the little one's fur clean as if it were his own younger sibling. That single moment marked the beginning of a friendship I never imagined could exist. It all began with Cheeto, a 9-week-old kitten that my wife and I decided to adopt. To be honest, I had never been much of a cat person. For years, our family had only owned large dogs, but the moment I met Cheeto, I knew there was no way I was leaving without him. At home, we already had Ruger, an older dog with a gentle personality, though he tended to keep to himself. On the drive home, my biggest concern was whether Ruger would accept the new family member. But the one who made the first move was Cheeto. The moment he walked into the house, he confidently strolled right over to Ruger, as if introducing himself. Ruger simply glanced at him, then calmly looked away as though nothing unusual had happened. I thought it would take weeks, maybe even months, before they became close. But just a few days later, one evening I suddenly realized I couldn't find Cheeto anywhere. I searched every room in the house, calling his name over and over. When I finally opened the door to Ruger's room, I couldn't help but laugh. Cheeto was curled up, fast asleep, right behind Ruger's back. The old dog didn't seem bothered by his little uninvited guest at all. From that day on, the two gradually became inseparable. I thought our family was already complete, but life has a funny way of surprising you. One day, while I was taking Ruger for a walk, I noticed a tiny creature trembling by the side of the road. It was a baby squirrel, so small and weak that it could barely stand. I reached out my hand and softly said, "Come here, little buddy." What happened next felt almost unbelievable. The squirrel didn't run away. Instead, it slowly walked toward me and climbed right into my hand. I can't quite describe what I felt in that moment. It was as if this tiny creature had decided I was someone it could trust. I named him Nuts. The next day, I returned to the exact spot where I had found Nuts, hoping to find his mother, or at least another squirrel nearby. But after searching for hours, I found nothing. I began reading everything I could about rescuing and caring for orphaned baby squirrels. From mixing the right formula to keeping him warm and feeding him properly, I learned every little detail because I wanted to give Nuts the best chance to survive. The biggest surprise wasn't Nuts, it was Cheeto. The first time they met, I stayed close, fully expecting that I'd have to step in if anything went wrong. After all, one was a cat and the other was a squirrel. But Cheeto simply walked over, lowered his head, and gently began grooming Nuts' fluffy fur like an older brother caring for his little sibling. Meanwhile, Nuts stared back with a puzzled expression that seemed to say, what exactly are you doing? Within just a few days, every bit of distance between them disappeared. They chased each other around the house, curled up together for naps, and sometimes even played with Nuts' fluffy tail. They never seemed to care that one was a cat and the other was a squirrel. To them, they were simply best friends. Every evening, Cheeto would sit patiently outside Nuts' little nest. He would gently tap the edge of it with his paw, as if inviting his friend to come out and play. The moment Nuts saw Cheeto, he would rush straight over. Watching them together made me wonder if this extraordinary friendship could last forever. But deep down, I knew I couldn't keep Nuts indoors for the rest of his life. Squirrels are meant to live among the trees. No matter how much I loved him, I had to give him back the life he was born to live. So I built a small wooden squirrel house with my own hands and mounted it on a tree near our home. On the day I brought Nuts outside, I gently placed him in front of his new home and whispered, "This is your home now." Nuts immediately hopped inside, then poked his little head back out and looked at me as if he approved of the place. I smiled, but my heart felt heavy. I knew it was the right thing to do, even though it wasn't easy. In the days that followed, I often found myself looking up into the trees, hoping to catch a glimpse of Nuts. Sometimes I would see him racing along the branches, and other times he'd return to the little wooden house I had built for him. Back inside our home, Cheeto and Ruger remained as close as ever. In fact, after Nuts moved outdoors, the bond between the two of them seemed even stronger. Cheeto had the sweetest little habit. Whenever Ruger settled down on his favorite bed, within seconds Cheeto would come running over and curl up right beside him. He copied almost everything Ruger did, as though the old dog were the big brother he had always looked up to. Looking back now, I've realized that family isn't defined by species. An old dog, a playful kitten, and a wild orphaned squirrel should have had nothing in common. Yet somehow, they chose to love one another in the most natural way imaginable. And perhaps that's the greatest lesson these animals have ever taught me. Sometimes, all it takes is a little patience, a little kindness, and a warm place to call home, for the most unlikely friendships to become the most beautiful miracles of all.